शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनुभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा गदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। हे कृष्ण करुण सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, you can say behind me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
From Bhagavad Gita, thank you. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3. One batch finished 38 verse, one batch finished 37 verse, right? Achyutas, you finished 37?
37, Mataji.
Oh,
We are into
Madhavas finished 37. No, did not finish 37. What happened? Please tell me.
Achita's finished
Mataji,
37.
we have finished 37.
Oh, Madhavas finished 37. What about Achyutas? Sita Mataji?
We finished 37 also, Mataji.
I think one batch. Okay,
Madhavas have finished only up to 36, Mataji.
36. Okay, Rika, I will do 37 quickly. Thank you. So from verse 36 onwards, Krishna talks about the greatest enemy of a living entity called as lust. And we were discussing that. That Krishna before that, Krishna gave the example of a mudha, the 6 symptoms of a mudha, a mudhatma. Whoever memorized verse number 27, I'll ask if we have time at the end or next week. 3.27 was supposed to be memorized. And then in the next verse, he talks about the Tattvavit. And then Arjuna asked later on that what is the reason why, despite of knowing all this very clearly, what makes one impelled to sinful acts even unwillingly, as if as if engaged by force? So Krishna is going to answer this. I have a feeling we finished 37 in both the classes, but we did not finish 38 in one of the class. I think we finished this. Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajoguna Samudhabhava, or no? Is there anybody in this class who did not finish this?
Achyuta, we finished now. Hare Krishna.
And Madhavas, Anvaya Mataji, Vasudevan Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, 37 is done.
Yes, Mataji, 37 is done.
Okay, thank you. So in this Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajogun Samudhabhava Mahashanam Mahapapam Vidhiyanam Iha Verinam. So it is lust only, Arjuna. So lust is born out of the mode of passion, and when it is not satisfied, it degrades the living entity to the mode of ignorance, and mode of ignorance leads to wrath or anger. And when we studied in second chapter, when one gets angry, then what happens? Then the memory is bewildered. One is in illusion, intelligence is lost, and then continues with the material existence or commits a sinful activity. Lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity. We don't have any other enemy. According to 7th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no other enemy. We think the other person or other situation is my enemy, but actually it is my own lust which is my enemy. It's a neat business. There is a skill to harness this, or to transform this quality of lust into love for Krishna. It's a skill which we learn in the association of the devotees. It's usually a neat business. That's what I'm coming to realize. Generally, we blame someone else or something else because my need is not fulfilled. So it's basically about my need first. And that's okay because we are in conditioned states, but we need to get connected to that part of our own self, that it's not them, it's me. I have a need for this. Let's say I have a need for acceptance, but I don't get it from my family or from my friends. And then I start thinking that this friend is not nice to me. This friend has so many bad qualities. We end up opening their hisab, their ledger book. we end up opening the ledger book saying that, okay, you have all these bad qualities, and that's why you're my enemy, and that's why you're not my friend anymore, or you're not our good relative anymore. But it's not about them. Actually, Krishna consciousness is not about anybody else. Krishna consciousness is about the self. That what am I doing to contribute to this chaos in my own life? Okay, that is why this is one of the most important reason why I like Krishna consciousness. You have to find your reason. Why do you like Krishna consciousness? I like Krishna consciousness because it brings me back to the center. Every time, anywhere I go, get deviated, this person, that situation, this, but what is it that I am doing to contribute to this chaotic situation in my own life? And Bhagavad Gita answers everything. Lust only. There's a need. And that's okay. In Gita Nagari, we spend so much time. There's a sannyasi in ISKCON, Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj. He's so nice. I mean, in non-violent communication, he's the one who propagates it a lot, that there's a need to understand the need of one's own self. If we don't understand it, then we will never be able to cut the weapon, cut this knot of detachment, of attachment. We'll never be able to, because detachment is another aspect of attachment. Okay, and now we're going to study a little bit more about the lust for the next 5 verses. So please, a couple of devotees, please keep your hands raised, because we'll go quick from one person to another, choosing who wants to read. Who would like to read this? Okay, Roja Mataji, go ahead. But please, couple of you, please keep your hands raised.
Hare Krishna. Dhumena vriyate vahnir yatha darsho malena cha yatol benavro garbhas tatha tenedam avritam. Sorry. Translation. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly, the living entity is covered by different degrees of this lust. Purport. There are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations, like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and the womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary, where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleaning process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position, for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of child in the womb is so helpless that this stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and the smoke-covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of a human being, the living entity may receive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life. By careful handling of the smoke in the fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy, lust, by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Something happened here. Now I can't delete this. Oh, I can. Okay. So Krishna goes on explaining this biggest enemy. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spending so much time on it. It means it needs to be understood in a proper way. Okay, we just can't say, oh, this person is so lusty or I'm so lusty. No, there's a need to understand it in a deeper level. That's why Krishna is speaking himself about it. Okay, and if we change it, then this is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. This is just a beginning that we have to, what is it? You see, before we start anything, we must do two things. What are the two things? Set an intention and introspect. Set an intention that what is it that I need to get out of this, and introspect. Every day when you read Bhagavad Gita, introspect. How much closer are you getting to your intention, and how much away are you going from your intention? This is the way. This is the way. And when we chant Hare Krishna, we can understand. Now today I'm going to chant late, right? Because I have this class. But when I chant early in the morning, I can understand that my day unfolds very well. But if my chanting goes on delaying until the end of the day, then it's a very heavy day, because my intention to become Krishna conscious is completely dependent on my chanting. So what is your intention dependent on? Okay, so 3 degrees are explained. One is the smoke covering the fire, and then another is dust covering the mirror, and then another is the womb covering the embryo. So these 3 things. So dust covering, the fire, smoke covering the fire. Money, there's a human life, that there is some intention that you can, somebody, if they become serious, they can become Krishna conscious. This stage is like beginning of Krishna consciousness. A spark of fire has a potency of a fire. It has the heat, it has the light. The quantity is less, but it is there. Have you ever seen that if a spark of fire falls in a cloth, there is a hole in the cloth gets burned? Do you have that experience? Yes.
Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
So yes, right. So thank you. But similarly, but if the cloth is like thrown in a big fire, it will get burned completely. But a spark of fire only burns it a little bit. So if we can kindle that, if we can fan that spark of Krishna consciousness in one living entity, then it is possible. It is possible for anybody in the human form of life to get Krishna consciousness. So that's what we need to do. That's my only business. I was listening to Prabhupada. I think I was discussing with my friend day before yesterday. Prabhupada was saying the only business, he was explaining the difference between dharma and religion. And then he was saying the only business of a human being is to become Krishna conscious. That's the only business. But we have manufactured so many other businesses. But the real business we have forgotten. Then he was explaining how the spark of fire can become a big fire. And that big fire can actually purify our existence, pure fire of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror, he explains 2 things. One is that dust on the mirror refers to the cleansing process of the mirror of the mind. The Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Cheto Darpan. Cheto means consciousness. Darpana means mirror. Marjanam means cleaning. So when we chant Hare Krishna, the first thing that happens is that our consciousness gets cleaned. The mirror of our consciousness gets cleaned. There's a lot of dirt there from a lot of lifetimes that we have passed through. That's one meaning. And the other meaning is that the dust on the mirror refers to the animal form of life. Okay, the smoke covered is compared to the human form of life, and then the covered mirror is compared to animals, birds, and bees. They're not like trees. They're not in a helpless situation. They have this Annamaya, Pranamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha is there. They know that this person can kill me. So they run away. But so in other words, if an animal also keeps a proper association of devotees, then the animal also has a chance to become Krishna conscious. But birds and bees is very difficult. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime we study when he was going through Jharkhand forest, he made all the animals, plants, everyone got delivered by chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra by Mahaprabhu. But it's rare. Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. It's rare. Okay. Let's say you have an animal in the house. Now you feed that animal the Krishna Prasadam. So that animal is going to get human form of life next time. And then the last analogy of a womb covering the embryo is covered to a extreme helpless situation like that of a tree. This is extremely helpless. If it is very cold, very windy, we can find a cover, a shelter, but they can't. They got to bear it out. Okay, so
Hare
this
Krishna.
is
Ma'am,
yes.
sorry, ma'am, your voice is not clear, ma'am. It's like very feeble.
Is my voice not clear?
Yes, yes, Mataji. There's something wrong with the volume.
The volume
Sorry for
is.
interrupting. Hare Krishna.
It's okay.
I have it
Mataji.
at the maximum. Is how many of you are facing problem?
I too.
I am also facing.
I also say the same.
I'm also facing.
Oh, but
So no problem. I
No
could hear
problem,
you.
Mataji.
I'm also facing the same problem, Mataji.
wow. Okay, let me connect to the mic again.
Can't hear you.
No, can't hear you at all.
Krishna. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
How is it now?
Yes, Mataji.
Still low, Mataji.
Speak in. Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Speaker
Yes,
and
Mataji.
microphone looks good. So my computer is saying speaker and microphone looks good.
Now it's better. Now it's better. I think
It's
it's
clear.
closer to
That's
the
clear.
mic.
Very clear.
Okay, so I'm gonna mute everyone because sometimes when somebody is unmuted, then it interferes with the background. Okay, so please keep yourself muted, otherwise it's gonna interfere. Okay, we'll go on. Sujata Mataji, please read the next verse. Sujata TK
Yes.
Mataji.
Yes. Hare Krishna. Avritam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpurenanalena cha. Shall I repeat, Mataji?
Mataji,
Okay.
translation.
Okay. Thus, man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Shall I continue? It is said in the Manu Smriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. Thus, as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel. In the material world, the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maithunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually, that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so Krishna goes on. First, he tells it is lust only. Then he explains the levels of the lust. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. Yes.
And then he goes on explaining it in a more detailed manner. That what does this lust do actually? It actually destroys one living entity. We get an idea that I'm very happy because I'm getting my lusty desires met. And we explain the meaning of the word lust, right? According to the Shastras, the meaning of the word lust is Atma Indriya Tipti Vancha Tarunam Kam. Anything that I do to satisfy my own desire is lust. Anything. If I am putting excessive indulgence in watching TV and it has nothing to do with my Krishna consciousness, I am actually putting fuel in the fire of my lust. I am. At least no. Okay, if I am indulging in excessive shopping and I don't need to, but I'm just doing it, that is also a lust. If I am over endeavoring to achieve something in my life which is which should be secondary to Krishna consciousness, I am lusty. Okay, so these are the things. And this, what does this lust do? The lust puts us behind the bars of material existence. Krishna is telling us where to escape from. There is an analogy. One psychologist gives this analogy that there is this criminal behind the bars, and the person is like, there's this cartoon, and the person is shaking the bars and saying that, get me out, get me out. But he does not look towards the right or left. And when if he looks towards the right or left, then there are no bars. No bars. So basically what it means is that we are putting ourselves behind the bars and saying, get me out, get me out. But if we practice this, then we can escape from the sides. If we practice Krishna consciousness, then we actually have no bars on the sides. We ourselves are putting ourselves in the situation that we are in. So it gives a lot of accountability or responsibility. Accountability comes with responsibility. Now I know that I'm accountable for my existence. So now I have to assume the responsibility. That is why people find Krishna consciousness difficult. They find the practice of Krishna consciousness difficult. Why? Because it is easy to put responsibility on someone else or something else. It is very easy that you yourself, you fix this, you fix that, then I will be happy. But it is very difficult to put the responsibility on one's own shoulders. So Krishna consciousness, we say bhakti is easy. We say that, but bhakti is not so easy too. Srila Prabhupada compares it to walking on a razor's edge. Razor blade. If somebody is walking on a razor blade, just imagine for a second how much one has to be careful, right? Otherwise one can get a deep cut, or one can get very badly injured. So Krishna consciousness is like that, walking on a razor's edge, because if we don't keep ourselves under the protection of the regulative principles of freedom, Prabhupada calls regulative principles as regulative principles of freedom. In second chapter, 64th verse, he writes it. Then we fall into the shackles. We fall into the shackles of material existence. We cannot expect. And that is why association is needed. Association is like fire. Association burns all our sinful reactions to ashes. Because in the association of the devotees, Krishna is there.
Mataji, sorry, we can't hear you properly.
You can't hear me? What is happening today?
The voice is clear, Mataji.
Is my voice clear? Okay. Neha, can you check your audio, please?
Yeah, now, I mean, when you speak closer to the mic, it's very clear.
Okay, I will put it now. Is it good now?
Better, yes.
Krishna, what should I do? Should I leave the class and come back?
Ma'am, speak this way. You'll have to repeat
For me, it's clear.
Okay.
Ma'am, now, like if you're very close to the mic.
Thank you very much. But keep yourself muted, please, because it interferes otherwise with my sound. So association I was talking is like fire. If we go out of the association, we feel very alone. And that's what is going to be the talk next week. Anyway, let's go on. Who wants to read? No hands are raised. Sakshi Mataji, do you want to read?
Yes, Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Indriyani manorbudhi asya drishthanamujyate aiti virmohayatyesha jnanamatrutva dehinam. Translation. The enemy, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. But the enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places, so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. Mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus the mind is the sever of all ideas of sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Next, the intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. This false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tri dhatuke swadhi kalatre dishu bahuma idyatihi yat tritirtha buddhi salite na charihishi jnaneshu abhigyaneshu sa eva gokhara. A human being who identifies this body made of three elements, which his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth as worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered as an ass or a cow. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you very much, Mataji. So Krishna goes on explaining that first he tells lust is an enemy, then he tells different degrees of lust, and then he tells that how the lust is keeping one in the fire, in the material existence. And now he's saying, where is it sitting? Where is it in the consciousness? So there are three places where it is sitting, right? Senses, mind, and intelligence. Senses, mind is the center of all the senses. This we study in 15th chapter also. Mind is the center of all the senses. Mind gives ideas. Eat this, do this, talk to this person, or this particular, or talk like this. And the senses are just helplessly going and acquiring objects of sense gratification for the mind. If you actually study addiction in this particular manner, let's say somebody is addicted to watching a lot of TV. Body doesn't need it. Does body need TV? Does your heart needs to function by watching a TV? Tell me. Does your brain needs anything that's needed in the body by doing that? Cross body. Yes or no?
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji.
No, Mataji.
Yes. So in the same way, but who needs it? Mind needs it. So mind tells the eyes that watch it. Okay. And then it's helpless. The person is helpless now. You have to sit and watch. And then what happens? Then we acquire different modes of nature. It's not just watching or entertainment. We associate. And then we associate that, oh, this thing is happening. The world is like this. The story is like this. And then we acquire that element. I see so many young people dressing up like TV actors. Makeup like TV actors. So it's not just about watching and entertainment. You're actually performing your personalities by subtly acquiring these qualities. It gives a sense of what I should look like and how I should go around in the world. All right. And then what happens? And then intelligence becomes lusty, because intelligence is the next door neighbor of the spirit soul. And a mind is sitting next to the intelligence, and an intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. I was supposed to use my intelligence to chant Hare Krishna, to read the Shastras. And now I'm using my intelligence. How can I prolong my existence in this particular planet. And lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego. This is a very nice step. Okay, and then Prabhupada gives this this reference from second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyatma buddhi kunapetri dhatuke swadhi karat trideshu bhoma yadhyadi yattirtha buddhi shalite na karhichi janeshu abhigneshu sa eva gokara. A person who, three things are there, identifies its body made of three elements with his self, considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, considers the land of birth as worshipable, and there is a fourth one, goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take bath, but not to elevate one's Krishna consciousness, then is considered to be an ass or a cow. Mane, there is ignorance. They cannot understand what is what. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. So next week, when we are done with the Bhagavatam class, I expect this particular class to give me a rundown from 37 to 43rd verse. What is the definition of lust? Where is this sitting? What are the three analogies Prabhupada is explaining it to be? And how does it influence one's existence? Sorry. Okay, we go on. Vijayanti Mataji, quickly unmute yourself. Please raise your hand if you have not read it so far. We have 50 people in class.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
Tasmadau mindriyanadau niyamya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahihenyam gnana vijnana nashanam. Translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Purport. The Lord advised Arjuna to regulate the senses from the very beginning so that he could curb the greatest sinful enemy, lust, which destroys the urge for self-realization and specifically knowledge of the self. Gnanam refers to the knowledge of self as distinguished from non-self, or in other words, knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. Vijnanam refers to specific knowledge of the spirit soul and knowledge of one's constitutional position and his relationship to the supreme soul. It is explained thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Gnanam Parama Guhyam Meyat Vijnana Samanvitam Sahasrashyam Tad Agnanam Cha Grahana Gaditam Maya. The knowledge of the self and the supreme self is very conditional and mysterious.
Confidential.
Sorry, Mataji. Confidential and mysterious, being valid by Maya, but such knowledge and specific realization can be understood if it is explained by the Lord himself. Bhagavad Gita gives us that knowledge, specifically knowledge of the self. The living entities are parts and parcels of the Lord, and therefore they are simply meant to serve the Lord. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So, from the very beginning of the life, one has to learn this Krishna consciousness, and therefore one may become fully Krishna conscious and act accordingly. Lust is the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. But if one is educated in Krishna consciousness from the very beginning, that natural love of God cannot deteriorate into lust. When love of God deteriorates into lust, it is very difficult to return to the normal condition. Nonetheless, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that even a late beginner can become a lover of Krishna by following the regulative principles of devotional service. So, from any stage of life or from the time of understanding its urgency, one can begin regulating the senses and Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord, and turn the lust into love of Godhead, the highest perfectional stage of human life. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Okay, thank you very much, Mataji. So, Gaurav Govardhan Das Prabhu, the date for your next Isopnishat class is 22. Today is 21. Okay, so this is my advanced class from other batch. I have only one classroom, so probably that's why you joined in.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna
so,
Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank
okay,
you.
Hare Krishna.
So may I leave now?
Yes, Prabhu, you can leave. Thank
Thank
you. In the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust by regulating the senses. So the regulation, people say regulatory principles are binding, but regulatory principles are not binding. Regulatory principles are freeing. But our intelligence is so deteriorated in connection with the contaminated mind that we can't even see what is freeing and what is binding, what is liberation, what is binding, what is liberating, what is not liberating. We have lost the sense. That is why there is a need for association of devotees, association of acharyas, of elevated personalities around us who can tell me that. And that is why that is the definition of surrender. Surrender teaches one that I am nothing, because I'm going on in this world with the conception that I am something, right? Everyone is going on with this conception that if you ask them, who are you? Then there is a big resume ready as to who they are and what they have done in their life. Or what I can also say like that, who am I and what I've done in my life. But Krishna consciousness tells us nothing. You're nothing other than soul. All those are acquired. Everything else is acquired, and whatever is acquired has to be given up. For example, we acquire clothes, clothes to cover our body, right? We acquire different kinds of clothes, but then what do we do at the end? We give them up. Like that, whatever designation I'm acquiring on my way through this world, it needs to be given up. So what am I then? What am I? That is knowledge. Knowledge, money, distinguishing the self from the self as spirit soul, and looking at oneself as I'm not the body. That is all. That is knowledge. But Vijnanam means specific knowledge after one has realized that I'm spirit soul. Then one goes and hunts for the source of the spirit soul, and that is Krishna. And then one also understands what is my relationship there. So Mane Vijnanam establishes Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojan. If somebody is engaged in Krishna conscious activities, they have already surpassed the layers of Jnanam, knowledge, long ago, over. That they are convinced, at least theoretically, they are convinced that I'm not the body. I am not the bag of bile or mucus or muscle or bone or stool or urine. I'm not. Then what? I am something else. You see, the people say that this person is very beautiful. These kind of awards go on in the world, right? Miss World, Mr. World, or whatever. They go on in the world. But if you actually analyze, what are they calling it as? What are they calling it as? Mr. World, Mr. Universe, Miss Universe? Or when I was young, I used to watch all this, but I don't know if it is still going on. It still goes on? Must be, right? Mr. India, Miss India.
Yes, Mataji.
What are they calling that? They go on? This happening now also?
Yes, Mataji.
So, you see, what are they calling it as? Mr. India, Miss India, or this particular somebody, Mr. Smile. I don't know what all things used to be there. What is it that they're calling beautiful? What is it? Because if the same living person, living body, you don't award a dead body. Do you give an award of you are very beautiful to a dead body? Do you do that?
No,
At
Mataji.
least you
No,
can write
Mataji.
to me.
No, ma'am.
The living person gets these. So what is it that's the difference? Same eyes are there. You can make a dead body smile. You can put it like in a smiling thing, smiling posture, or smiling whatever. You can manipulate the lips, but will you give them a word, or your smile is very nice? No, because that's a dead lump of matter. So what is living? What is living? What is making me alive? That is knowledge. Okay, that is knowledge, just the beginning. And now Vijnanam is a step higher, that I realize that I am not the body, I am spirit soul. I belong to Krishna. And my only business is to serve Krishna. My only reason I have been given this form of life with so many facilities is so I can do this, what I'm doing right now. This is what needs to be done. And this is called Krishna consciousness. And lust is nothing but a love of God perverted into, is like contaminated. One just has to become convinced. Words after words, if you read Prabhupada books every day you read, Prabhupada repeats the same words, same everything, same in different manners, different presentations, different combinations, permutation. He talks about the same thing. One time I had this realization that Prabhupada speaks the same thing in so many different ways. How dull I am that I don't even understand this yet. So much hard work he's doing. So much. Okay, so let's pay our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and show our gratitude to him by at least reading what he has given us. At least read. No, I don't have time to read. What do you have time for? So many other things. No. See where the time is going. Time is there. Time is there. I just don't know what to do with that time. So I fill that time with something which is contrary to my Krishna consciousness, because there is weakness in the heart. There is weakness in the heart. That's why I give it. And when we are in the association of devotees, that weakness will fly away. It's very important. That's why I tell you, I meet with all of you once a week, but you need to have your group of your own, a buddy group, where you can discuss this, where you can talk out more than once a week. Okay, Poonam Mataji, please go ahead. Let's do 40-second.
इंद्रियाणि परान्य आहुर इंद्रियाणि भय पर प्रमः मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिर यो बुद्धेः परतस्तु सः. The working senses are superior to dull matters. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Purport. The senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is a superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the bodily functions as described here ultimately end in the Supreme Soul. Bodily actions means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all the bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming. But above the mind, there is a determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind, and the senses, will be automatically engaged. In the Katha Upanishad, there is a passage in which it is said that the object of sense gratification are superior to the senses and the mind is superior to the sense objects. If therefore the mind is directly engaged in the service of the Lord constantly, then there is no chance of the senses becoming engaged in other ways. This mental attitude has already been explained. If the mind is engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is no chance of its being engaged in the lower propensities. In the Katha Upanishad, the soul has been described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, the soul is above all, namely the sense objects, the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. With intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and then engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. A neophyte spiritualist is generally advised to keep aloof from the object of senses. One has to strengthen the mind by using the intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness by complete surrender on to Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger, and even though the senses are very stronger, like serpent, then they will be no more effective than serpent with broken fangs. But even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by the association of Krishna, association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is very chance of falling down due to the agitated mind.
Thank you, Madam. Okay, so again, he's giving the details that how can we do it. First, he said, which is the biggest enemy. Then he explained that what are the different degrees of lust. Then he explained that how this lust is, where is this lust sitting? The senses, the mind, and the intelligence. Okay, and then he explained that how we can curb this greatest symbol of greatest symbol of sin, and when to do it. When is the best time to curb it and how to do it? When is the best time to curb it? In the beginning. And what is the meaning of this beginning? Beginning means dhyate vishyan punsaha, contemplation. Contemplation of the objects of senses. One has to stop contemplating. Stop there. Stop there, Mane. Remember when we studied the description of the Sthitadhir Muni in second chapter, and how does that person sit? Was the question, and Krishna explained that how does that person sit. That person sits like a turtle. A turtle is comes out of its shell to acquire something and then quickly goes back inside the shell. That's how the senses of a spiritualist are, that they come out in the world to acquire the objects necessary for Krishna consciousness, and then they go back inside. That's how. So we don't contemplate. Or we, even if we do contemplate, then we have to analyze our contemplation in association of the devotees before we act out on it. Otherwise, there's every chance. We have so many examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Every chance. Ajamila. Don't play with the fire. Ajamila is example. Bharat Maharaj can be taken as an example, but Bharat Maharaj is a special example because he was already on the Bhava Bhakti platform. But even on that platform, if I don't follow the regulatory principles, I have the chance of losing the opportunity or prolonging my material existence from one material body to another material body. One has to be very, so that is the meaning of the word in the beginning. And then Krishna says that how can we control this greatest enemy? How can we do it? Working senses are superior to dull matter. We know that, right? Let's say this glass is a dull matter. This glass is superior, I am superior. Who uses this glass to drink different things in it? Who is superior? I am superior. So working senses are superior. Mind is higher than the senses. But working senses, hand is one of the working senses. What are the 5 working senses? Hands, legs, vocal cords, organs of evacuation, and organ of reproduction. So hands is one of the working senses. Okay, 5 working senses are there. It's superior to dull matter. So I use my hand to lift up this glass. Mind is higher than the senses. So hand is superior, but then more superior to it is the sense, which is my mind, which tells me what to put inside this glass. What to put, what goes inside. Does the liquor goes inside? Tea goes inside? Water goes inside? What goes inside? So mind tells. So mind is higher, and intelligence is actually still higher than the mind, because intelligence can discriminate what is good for self-realization, what is not. If we are there yet, if we act on the intelligence level. And higher than the intelligence is the soul proper. So if, let's say, if somebody is in a mode of is very lusty, and they have working senses, they have working mind, they have working intelligence, but they're not acting on soul level. So what will they do? They're lusty, so they will be able to lift up this glass by the use of the working sense. But the mind and intelligence are in the lustful propensity. So what will it put? It will put some alcohol or some liquor, and then they drink it, and then they feed the mind and intelligence. Okay, or if somebody is less lusty, still lusty, but less lusty, they know that, okay, this intoxication is grossly, foolish act. So then they will put some minor intoxicant, tea or coffee will go inside, and then it will feed the mind and intelligence. If somebody is lusty, but they are trying to curb the lust very sincerely, then they will avoid putting any of the intoxicants, and then water or juice will go inside. But if somebody is a spiritualist, then only Krishna's offering will go inside, nothing else. Only Krishna's offering, whatever Krishna has left behind will go inside. Krishna drank milk or water, whatever, it comes inside. Okay, that is the difference. How we act from the mind level, intelligence level, soul level, and how we act and how we don't act at all. Okay, and the lust is reserved within the body. It is in the body. It's subtle body or gross body? Mostly subtle body, mind, right? But it is given a vent through the senses. Prabhupada gives so much of a visual in his words. Such a nice writer he is. Okay, and then don't think that if I am not acting out in the lustful propensities, if I am not going to, let's say, Friday night, I didn't go to a dancing place. What is that place called where everybody assembles and dances to different musics? I forgot. A place where everybody assembles and then they just dance and they just drink alcohol or something.
Pub, ma'am.
Pub, okay.
Ma'am.
Pub, they dance in the pub?
Nowadays they do, ma'am. It's all called pub. So. Or discotheque,
right.
whatever you call it.
Okay, so you got the point. Thank you. So you got the point, right? So what was the point? Oh, don't think that if I wasn't able to go there on Friday night, that means I have become purified of my propensities. No, but my desire is still there. When will I go there? When will I go there? Prabhupada gives the example of the patients in the hospital. Patients in the hospital, sometimes on Ekadashi, they are not allowed to eat. Incidentally, it's Ekadashi and they're not allowed to eat because of many other reasons. Maybe they have to go to the operating room, so they need to be not allowed to eat so they can get anesthesia. Or maybe they are too sick to eat, so they're not allowed to eat. Right? So does it mean that that person has become Krishna conscious because they're not allowed to eat on Ekadashi and they're keeping Ekadashi? No. Because that person is thinking simply, when will I eat next? When will I eat next? When will I eat next? So bodily actions means function of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all the bodily function. But the mind is still active. Prabhupada writes here, but is a connection. The mind is active. Even though the body is silent at the rest, mind will act. Okay, so we in Krishna consciousness takes care of that. We take care of it. We don't ignore it. We take care of the origin. And what is the origin? Mind. And then mind gets contaminated, intelligence gets contaminated. Intelligence gets contaminated, soul acquires a false ego. So we start functioning. Krishna consciousness is a direct process. Bhakti yoga is a direct process. You know why? Because it directly engages one in the service of Krishna. Directly. Chant Hare Krishna. That's direct service to Krishna. Other yogic practices like Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga is indirect. You work with your senses, you work like this, but give your results to Krishna. Then slowly your propensities will become dovetailed to Krishna's service. And slowly you will come to the point of knowledge that you're not the body or the soul. Slowly you will try to regulate your senses with the practice of Ashtanga yoga so that you can see what is what, and then slowly you will end up in serving Krishna. That's slow. But here Krishna consciousness directly engage in the senses, in the service of Krishna, directly. And Prabhupada is giving so many references. Kathopanishad, soul is described as Mahan, the great. Therefore, soul is above all. namely sense objects, senses, mind, and intelligence. Therefore, directly understanding the constitutional position of the soul is the solution of the whole problem. Who talks like this? Solution of the whole problem is to understand that I am soul. I am part of Krishna. We work. I told you, did I tell you that I recently read that emotion meaning of the word emotion is a feeling that puts one into motion. So what feeling is putting me into the motion in today's time? What is putting me in the motion? That I am a part and parcel of this particular world where I am. I am a part and parcel of this particular family, and my responsibility is to maintain this family, to maintain my children, to maintain myself, right? And I see myself as a body. So that emotion, that feeling is putting me into this motion. Do it, do it. But Krishna consciousness brings us into this emotion that I am Krishna's. I'm Krishna's. Okay, that's the whole, but it's not so easy. There's every chance of falling down due to agitated mind. It is very difficult. I think we can do the last verse. You're very good, everyone, today. We can do the last verse. Who wants to read very quickly? Please raise your hand. Or Vijay's iPhone. Yes. Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hi, Krishna.
Evam buddhe param buddha संस्त भयात्मनात्मना जहि शत्रुम महाबाहो कामरूपम दुरासरम. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. The third chapter of Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directive to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without considering impersonal voidness as the ultimate end. In the material existence of life, one is certainly influenced by propensities for lust and desire for dominating the resources of material nature. Desire for overloading and sense gratification are the greatest enemies of the conditioned soul. But by the strength of Krishna consciousness, one can control the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence. One may not give up work and prescribe duties all of a sudden, but by gradually developing the Krishna consciousness. One can be situated in a transcendental position without being influenced by the material senses and the mind by steady intelligence directed towards one's pure identity. This is the sum total of this chapter. In the immature stage of material existence, philosophical speculations and artificial attempts to control the senses by the so-called practice of yogic postures can never help a man towards spiritual life. He must be trained in Krishna consciousness by higher intelligence.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to the third chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga, or discharge of one's prescribed duty in Krishna consciousness. So, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self. Should word is used. One should do it by the higher self, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Prabhupada never says that let that person control you, let this situation control you. What is he saying? Know your higher self, and by knowing that, use it to control your lower self. It's about self by spiritual strength, by the strength of the spiritual knowledge. We don't read Bhagavad Gita. At least my aim behind reading is not to make you all scholars. Neither am I a scholar. It's pretty obvious by now, right? But what is the reason? Why do we read? So that I can chant properly. When I approach my beads after reading this, my approach should be with more conviction. That yes, the only reason to read the Shastras, and the only reason to read the Shastras is to enhance one's chanting. If I am not able to enhance my chanting and solidify my attention, then I am not reading. I'm not reading. Krishna is not going to be pleased by your scholarly knowledge or my scholarly knowledge. Okay, and we are dependent. I'm 100% dependent. If Krishna does not give sun, what are you going to do? What will you do? Nothing. There is no replacement. So I'm 100% dependent, and that dependence should be out of love, not out of force. In this particular world, we have an experience of dependence out of need. Like Prabhupada gives example of an employer and an employee relationship. The employer is dependent on the employee, not out of love, but there's a salary attached. Once the salary is disturbed, then the relationship is gone. The foundation was money or artha. Similarly, in Krishna consciousness, the foundation between the living entity and the spirit and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is love. There is love there. And love means service. If I say I love Krishna, then I must be serving him. Okay, action speaks louder than words. Let's say that there is a mother and a child, or parent and a child. And parents say that, okay, my child, I love you so much. I love you so much. And the child is like all dirty, not fed. The nose is not cleaned. The skin is not bathed. Is that an expression of the love of parents? Parents' love? No. Then what is the expression? The child is kept nicely, is strengthened emotionally, physically, spiritually, right? Is given confidence. So why? Where is this child getting all this? Because of the love of the parents or love of the caretakers. So love means service. Service. And how do we serve Krishna? What is the beginning? The beginning is from the tongue. Sevan mukhehi jivadu. So from the tongue, and we use tongue to chant Hare Krishna. So this is the summon woman of this particular chapter. Mataji, Rashmi Mataji, where are you? You're writing some question, but you have to tell me what verse is this. You can unmute yourself.
Mataji, verse number 43.
Yeah.
The first sentence of the purport. The third chapter of Bhagavad Gita is conclusively directed to Krishna consciousness by knowing oneself as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without considering impersonal voidness the ultimate end.
Yes, so we're not, Brahman realization is not the ultimate end. Bhagwan realization is the ultimate end. It's not that I'm going to be merged into energy after I become Krishna conscious. No, I'm going to associate with Krishna as a person. I'm going to sit with him. I'm going to eat with him. I'm going to make garlands for him. So there is a person behind everything. So without considering impersonal voidness as the ultimate end. Impersonal voidness means Brahma Jyoti, effulgence. That's not the ultimate end. Paramatma is also not the ultimate end. The ultimate end is Bhagwan feature of Krishna. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, I'm very happy. Now, the next week homework, I don't know if we'll be able to get to it, but I will get to it. That you have to tell me this hierarchy of lust. Your teams can work together, and I don't expect a big presentation, but at least one of you must be the voice behind everybody, the whole teamwork. Tell me, what are the different aspects of lust discussed by Krishna between verse number 37 to 43? And each of you have to answer. Okay, each of you. If you don't have a team, then you need to tell me. That's how you're gonna continue. You don't have to write elaborate things. You don't have to write anything. Just speak it up. At least just speak up. I need to know. I need to have that emotion, the feeling that puts me in motion, that why should I go on with this class? Okay. Okay, I can give 3-4 more minutes before we go. Sita Mataji, what is the question?
No question, Mataji.
Rashmi Mataji, yes.
Mataji, this just now what you spoke in the Ishopanishad class, you had mentioned that Lord has no actually.
Mataji, I got your email. I've been at work. I didn't get a chance to reply. But the problem is that you are locking Krishna up. You just have to give yourself more time. There's no other solution that I have for you. I cannot put this realization down your throat that no, choke yourself. You are saying Krishna does not have stomach. Why are you speculating? You're speculating. You're imagining Krishna should be like this, Krishna should be like that because I am like this. But who cares? What am I? Krishna is Krishna and my body is my body. I am also not like this. Constitutionally, I also don't have these organic, anatomical and physiological structures. Soul doesn't have a stomach or intestine or all these things.
Okay. Mataji, then what do you mean by as a person? You have said that we have to pray to Lord as a person. So the person is actually a spirit.
So yeah, so you don't understand. For example, if I give you the body of a, let's say a fish, okay, and the fish is eating water by eating food by sucking. Now I just give you body of a fish. That's a matter, and I say, Rashmi, Mataji, this body of a fish is a person, right? It's a person. It's an individuality. So now tell me how are you offering food to it and it is eating? Tell me everything by just looking at it externally. Just by looking at it externally, tell me. Will you be able to tell me, or you just have to collect more knowledge about it? Rashmi Mataji, please unmute yourself.
No, Mataji, I need to collect more data.
Exactly. So that's what you just have to hear more and read more.
Okay, Mataji.
Okay, you're hurrying up. You're hurrying up, and it's not going to work. That in one day I'm not going to become 100% Krishna conscious. But the only thing is just to have an open mind. That
Okay.
Krishna is a person. He's just not like me. He's like himself. Like there's so many other things which are not like me. Right, which are not like me. There's so many other things. If you come to the hospital with me, I wanted to write to you like that. Some children, there is a kid like that on the floor right now. So some children cannot eat by mouth. Mataji, you can unmute. I'm telling you, some children cannot eat by mouth because they have problems in the passage of food. They cannot. Then how do we feed them? We put a tube inside their stomach directly. We don't put a tube from their nose only. We put a tube directly in the stomach through the skin. We punch a hole, put a tube, and feed them with liquid diet through the stomach. It's called G tube, gastrostomy tube. And when we feed them because stomach is supposed to get a particular consistency of the food in my own body. Medically, I'm talking to you. So we feed them, and then after some time we get, if you take a biopsy of their stomach, and if you take a biopsy of a stomach of a normal person, you will see a huge difference of how that person's stomach is and how this person's stomach is. So medically also your question is very limited because you are limited because you have not seen someone like this probably. Okay, so
Okay.
don't try to see Krishna by your imagination or by your experience or by your eyes. Try to see Krishna by hearing about Krishna. Okay. Medically also you cannot lock people up that this is the only way to eat. This is not the only way to eat because I have managed children like that with my own hands. You may think like that, but that's not the end in end. So there's got to be more. You just have to give yourself more time and come back to it after 1 year of being with us. Then I will ask you again. Okay.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.